Hey, how's it going? Mike here for the Usagi Podjimbo podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed the last two episodes. Now we're on episode 3. We're covering Samurai Part 5 and Part 6. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast so far. And make sure to share and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, stuff like that. But let's get into this. Hope you guys enjoy and yeah, so it's been around like a couple months since Usagi has won his competition from the Dogram school that he got his swords from, and he's been secluding himself in the mountains, away from anybody and everything. He found an abandoned hut that he found, and it looks pretty nice from the outside looking in. Uh, but it's weird that he just found a hut in the middle of nowhere. So he took his teacher's advice, his sensei's advice, and he decided to seclude himself, I guess you could say. And we open up with Usagi, and Usagi is he's practicing his swordsmanship techniques and training. And I like how Usagi said he stayed with Katsuichi for about 2 months after he won the tournament as like a parting gift to Katsuichi. Like, what if Katsuichi didn't want Usagi around? Uh, and he's like, "Oh, here's my gift to you, Sensei, for all your hard work for teaching me. Let me stay with you for 2 months. And here's some firewood and some water for you. Just to hold you over till I leave, But that part was pretty funny to just think about. Hey, here's your water and firewood. Bye, see ya. Uh, so, but we go on from there. We see Usagi practicing his swords, talking about his swords, saying how they're so much lighter than his Bankai, and he's trying to cut a dragonfly, and he actually does successfully cut a dragonfly, which cancel Usagi Yojimbo or Miyamoto Usagi. Uh, he killed the dragonfly. The dragonfly did nothing wrong. Just saying. No, but I mean that was pretty cool. Seeing him cut a dragonfly out of the air was pretty cool to witness and whatnot. But in the background, we see a stranger. We don't know who the stranger is. He's wearing a what would you call it, like a straw like cloak or something, and a straw hat that covers his entire head. And Usagi is taken off guard, and he's like, "Who are you, stranger? What do you want?" And he's like, "I've been watching you for some time, Usagi. Your swordsmanship is great." And he's like, "Oh, you too live by the?" He's like, "You practice the sword technique?" And he's like, "No, I live by the sword." And we see him on top of the it's like a water mill uh, next to this old hut. So I wonder if this water mill is still active, and he's having to walk up. It's like a big old circle that churns water. But yeah, it's funny seeing him just sit on top or stand on top of this section of the house, and he's like, he just takes Usagi off guard, and he's like, he tells Usagi that he is a skilled samurai, and you've learned a lot from your teacher, but your strength, your unyielding strength is your weakness, which is really condescending to say to Usagi. And Usagi says that as well. He's like, "Hey, man, quit being so condescending. Why do you have to be so condescending about this? Uh, you know, how can you have uh, have too much strength? And he's like, you know, uh, why won't you answer my questions? Like, who are you? What's going on? He starts talking about to Usagi about his swords and how the person who made Usagi's swords uh, knew all too well or too much about strength, and why that's why he named these swords after like binding willow branches and stuff, and he should learn to bend. He tells Usagi he should learn to bend, and he's like, "What, you want me to bend? What are you talking about?" As Usagi is questioning everything about this stranger and the stranger's entire existence of being here at this point with Usagi, you see him slice up towards Usagi's direction, and he has so much control over his blade. He just barely almost grazes a dragonfly, and the dragonfly flies away. And Usagi is amazed, and he's like, "Oh, you have such good control." And the mystery man is like, "Hey, I want a match. I want to match with you. Call it a test of skills, one might say." And Usagi never backs down from a challenge. No, he does not. And I like this scene where the mystery man flings his hat at Usagi, and Usagi like slices through it. And he's like, "But first, identify yourself as an honorable samurai. Who are you? And who do you think it is? It's no other than Gunichi. Gunichi, the bodyguard for Lord Mifune. If you don't remember Gunichi, he was the man or the warthog who Usagi fought in the very first issue and killed. And this is the man who um, supposedly betrayed Lord Mifune. And this is where they have their first duel uh, or match as opposing samurai. Oh, but before I forget, Gunichi was also at the tournament for the Dogram school. Totally forgot to mention that he was there. He was watching Usagi because he actually mentions that he was watching Usagi at the tournament, and he says, your skills are good as a swordsman, but your skills are not as good as me. And Usagi is ready. Usagi says that it's a good time to baptize his swords in blood, which that sounds like really like some fucking metal shit right there, like heavy metal, heavy metal, like baptizing your swords in blood. Uh, but they are ready to fight together, I guess, and test their skills to see who exactly is the better samurai. And we get this really awesome fight scene between Gunichi and Usagi, which is a fierce fight. They seem to be evenly matched, which there's something in here that I didn't notice before, but as they're fighting, there's like a rustling in the corner of one of the panels, which I was confused about, seeing as what comes up next. Uh, when they're fighting, Usagi like cuts a bunch of like the brush or bamboo, or whatever, and he finds assassins hiding in the brush, and they're actually from the Dogram school. And I didn't notice this before, and I was very much confused. And I was like, what's going on?" Because I thought I missed something, or maybe a page or something, like maybe stuck together, or wasn't in my book. So I was like, "What's going on?" And these guys very much all look confused and taken off guard because they their plan has failed. They're trying to kill Usagi for dishonoring the Dogram school name, and Gunichi is not having this. He is like, "You dare dress as assassins? A warrior would not do this. A warrior would not lurk in the brush." And as I said, they kind of jump out and get surprised by Usagi, and Usagi Usagi stands down, and he's like, "Leave now. I have no desire to kill you. Your death would be useless to me. It would be a useless death." And they are like, "The only by your death can we cleanse the shame of you defeating our school single handedly. So he single handedly took down their entire school. I have to say, that is very impressive. And they have their swords all drawn and ready to go. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna fight you guys. This is not between us. Like, come on, like, go away. Like, you don't need to be doing this now, do you?" But sadly, the Dogram school assassins, whatever you want to call them, they're no match for Usagi. Usagi takes them all on at once. And I like this scene. This scene is really, really funny. I thought it was really funny. Um, so as after Usagi like attacks them and like defends himself honorably, might I add, because he didn't want to fight them in the first place. They're the bad guys, the assassins. They're like, "Oh no!" And Usagi's like, "Blood. I've never before realized how much blood there is." Uh, and Gunichi's like, "Oh, you're learning, Usagi. You know, their ambush was cowardly. It was a cowardly attack. They have dishonored their school more than you have dishonored their school." And but I like the scene where Usagi's like, oh, he's kind of like almost like baffled or a little freaked out. Because I don't think Usagi has been in an actual like fight with his swords. I think this is his first time that he's actually had to like cut somebody open, I guess, which is funny to see his reaction to this. Is not what I expected, I gotta say. And they end up running away. The or some of the assassins end up running away. One of them does, at least. And Usagi is more concerned with them finishing their match. And Gunichi's like, "Nah, we don't need to finish our match. Both of our swords tasted blood, so that's okay. You know, we could say you could say this is like a draw." And so they both agree to end their duel. And Gunichi says he's going to put in a good word for Usagi because his exceptional sword skills. He's going to put in a good recommendation to Lord Mifune for Usagi. And Usagi, thanked him, and, wished that one day they can become friends. And I like this interaction in the present day with Gin and Usagi. And he's like, "Friends?" Gin says, "Friends? How could you guys have been friends? You just killed him. What kind of story are you trying to pass off to me?" He's like, "But Usagi's like, but there's more, there's more to this." And, it just keeps going on from here. And our story ends with Gin saying, "You know, if this is how you treated your friend Gunichi, how do you treat your best friend, me? I'm your best friend, obviously." And Usagi is like, "What? What are you talking about? You're my best friend." Uh, he's like, "You're not my friend, you know. You're a cheat. You're a manipulator. You're untrusting." He's like, "Okay, okay. I accept your flattery. I'll let you buy me a drink this time. Can you please continue the story?" And Usagi's like, "What? You want me to buy you a drink? Are you crazy?" And I guess they go and get drinks because that's what they're doing in the next part of this issue. This part of the issue, or Samurai Part 5, was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Um, my only slight nitpick was I did miss that particular part with the bushes, that rustle in the background of that panel was very hard to distinguish. I mean, it was my fault, obviously, but it's cool to see Usagi actually get into a actual fight instead of fighting with his practice swords, and how he went about you know learning and being honorable and stuff like that. I really like the I really like the interactions between Usagi and Gin. They're probably one of my favorite parts of this story arc so far is them two bickering and stuff like that, and uh, going back and forth, trading barbs and stuff like that. It's fun. It's funny. Uh, I like it. I do find it odd that everybody has a top knot in this. Well, Gin doesn't have a top knot, but everybody else has a top knot, and it's all black all the time, except for Usagi. Usagi does his ears, obviously, because he's a rabbit. But yeah, uh, just something I noticed. Every other character has a top knot to them. That's so weird. To just, I guess I didn't notice that before, you know. But this was a quick little story to see how far Usagi has come in the past couple of years, which is it's pretty cool, and to see, you know, he's not the best at this moment, but he can hold his own in a fight, which is really cool. And I like seeing what Usagi does. Um, I want to know more about the sword, the origin of his swords, because they seem to be hinting at something bigger, maybe like maybe the person who crafted his swords, the swordsmith, would is somebody special in this world, and somebody who's probably maybe like made like almost like who was the one who made oh god, he made like really good like samurai swords. I can't remember what his name is. For some reason, I'm thinking of the guy who made Wolverine's sword in the X-Men books right now, but I can't remember what the guy's name was. But yeah, this was fun, and let's move on to Samurai Part 6. All right, so we continue on with Samurai Part 6. Usagi and Gin have reached the town finally, and they're going off to get a drink at the bar at I think it's an inn, if I remember correctly, because they do call the one of the characters in there the innkeeper. So they get there, and uh, Usagi's like, "There is no way, Gin, that I am buying you a drink whatsoever." And Gin's like, "Innkeeper, bring me enough sake to make two men go blind." And he's like, "Yes, sir, samurai," the innkeeper says. "But I want to know, how does Gin know, or how much does he need to drink to become blind? Has he done this before? Is this like a life experience thing that he's already experienced? Um, is he a professional at becoming blind? Because Gin seems like he likes to drink a lot from this part of the issue. Uh, but yeah, I want to know, like, does he have like life experience behind this? And I love Usagi's faces in the background as Gin is talking for them, and Gin's like, "Oh, do you want anything, Usagi?" And uh, Usagi's like, "No, I don't want any of your sake." This was Usagi tells the innkeeper that there's a samurai who's dead out near the river on the road, and he wants him to be taken care of and I guess properly buried. It seems like, yeah, because he wanted him to be properly buried in the first issue, if I remember correctly. And Usagi makes a mention of this to the innkeeper. Do not take anything from Gunichi's body, because he will know if anything was stolen or not. And he makes a point to be like, "Hey, don't do this," because it is bad luck. Apparently, it's bad luck for what Gin is about to do. Actually, uh, so Gin says that there's no need to worry, Usagi. I took all of his money. So Gin took all of Gunichi's money. Well, I guess while Usagi was not looking, and Usagi's like, "What the fuck, man? What the fuck? Come on. You know you can't do that shit." Basically. And he's like, look, I'm a realist, Usagi. I am a realist. Money doesn't want to belong on a corpse. It is yearned to be spent." And Usagi's like, it's bad luck to buy sake with a dead man's money. And Usagi's like, "I am not drinking this shit. I am not drinking it. Nope, nope." He crosses his arms. He's like, "Nope." And And yet he's like, Gin's like, okay, fine, whatever, more for me. Who cares? I don't care. I'm gonna drink it. And Usagi kind of gives in a little bit and it's like, okay, fine, I'll have one drink. Turns out the sake is not the best, the finest that the innkeeper has, and Gin does not like the sake whatsoever. But we find out that so Usagi decided to go back to his village prior to his seclusion up in the mountains to just, I guess, check in on things, stop by before he went off to serve Lord Mifune. And that's where we start this issue off right here, where he ends up at a very similar place to where he is at the moment in the current time. And he's also talking about how he's at an inn in the past. Very interesting. I just put those two and two together. Yeah, that's kind of funny. He's at an inn talking about his experiences at an inn. Very Inception esque, you know. So Usagi is at this inn enjoying his meal by himself, feeding these little dinosaur things some food, which I want to know what these are, which I hope we get to know what these little like brontosaurus looking things are, but they're like small size, like the size of a cat. There's like 8 of them here, and they look like they're having fun, but the innkeeper doesn't look like he's having fun whatsoever. Uh, you hear a big crash and bang, and you hear, innkeeper, clean up this mess. Bring me more sake. And you see Usagi, he's like, oh, what's going on? What's all the racket all about? And you find out that there's been a samurai here. A samurai has been here for a long time, and he's drinking, being rude, refuses to leave. He's beaten up some of my men, the innkeeper says, and the innkeeper's like, hey, if you get this guy out of here, I might make it your, you know, make something good of this, and maybe get you a meal, something like that, and who knows, just get him out of here. He's being like a real bother. And Usagi gets up, puts his sword on, and he's like, well, it is very impolite to ruin somebody's dinner with all this ruckus that's going on. And he's like, yeah. The innkeeper says, well, if you're gonna take care of him, please at least win. And if you don't win, don't tell him it was me that sent you. And Usagi's like, don't worry, he's as good as. And before he finishes his sentence, you see him open the door, and he's like, what the fuck? What the fuck's going on? Uh, and we see no other than we see Kenichi, Usagi's rival, his childhood rival, is here at the same exact inn as Usagi. Kenichi, man, Kenichi is living it up at this bar, it seems like, or this inn. He's living it up, drinking, making a mess with this. I think she's like a cat geisha or like a cat like prostitute or something. Who knows what she is? But she looks like she's having a good time feeding Kenichi all these drinks and stuff. And he's like, Usagi, come drink with me, innkeeper, more sake. And Usagi's like, what are you doing here, Kenichi? Aren't you supposed to be with the Dogram school? And he's like, the Dogram? Kenichi says, the Dogram are jerks. You're jerks. Everybody's a jerk. He is obviously drunk off his ass. But then you see him, his demeanor changes like drastically. He's like, I'm the biggest jerk of them all, which is so sad to see. It's so sad to see. And regardless of how Usagi feels about Kenichi, Usagi goes to take care of Kenichi, puts him to bed, puts this weird contraption on his head where, like, I guess maybe like a cold compress or something like that, maybe to help get rid of his headache or his hangover. It's like this like pole, and there's like a string attached to it. there's like a little bag on the end of it, and it's placed on his forehead. But I like the depiction. This might sound weird. I like the depiction of Kenichi getting over his hangover by the different panels of Usagi, and he's like all scribbly and stuff, and doesn't really look like Usagi. He looks like my 9-year-old daughter drew Usagi with all scribbly and wavy and stuff. And then he finally, I guess Kenichi comes to, and he's like, "I'm gonna kill you, you motherfucking son of a bitch. You know, you're the reason why everything awful happened to me." He's like, "Oh, my head. Oh no. Oh my god." And after the tournament, Kenichi was defeated. Obviously, he he lost. The school lost face, and because the school lost face, he had to leave the school, and he is going back to his village. But he does not have the face to or save face and go to his village, and he feels so dishonored. He can't really do anything about it. And Usagi's a good friend. I would say Usagi's a good friend. He helps try to sober up Kenichi, and he asks the innkeeper to bring him some food to help sober him up, because he hasn't eaten anything in a couple hours. Kenichi really looks like he's very much disheveled, hasn't slept in a while, and we find out that a bunch of bandits have cut off supplies to the inn and the village, and they're actually don't have any food at this inn anymore because Kenichi ate the rest of the food, and they don't have anything else. And the bandits are actually going to the next town over, which is Usagi and Kenichi's hometown. And they both like perk up, and they're like, "Oh, we got to go help. Our friends, my father is in danger," Usagi says. And they both, like, in their heads, they say, "And Mariko." So I can't remember if we heard who Mariko was, but obviously there's something between them and Mariko that is very important. And we see Kenichi's like, "Innkeeper, bring me my swords. We are both leaving." And these two rivals uh, are on a mission to go take out these bandits. And that's where we end issue 3. Oh boy, it is setting up for something definitely big. I mean, at least I think it's trying to set up for something big. It seems like it is. We're going to get some pretty cool action and stuff like that in the next scene, or not the next scene, but the next issue 4. But yeah, it seems. I mean, it's gonna be cool because we're gonna see Usagi's hometown and stuff like that. We got a short glimpse of that in the very very first issue, just a little bit. But that's gonna be cool to see. And who is Mariko? We don't know who Mariko is, but obviously Mariko is somebody special to Kenichi and Usagi. Will they be able to help out their town and their village? And will they be able to put bygones aside? Their history aside. Um, this issue was interesting. It was very different. It seems like than a lot of our other issues. I liked the beginning with Gin and stuff. That was fun. Typical Gin stuff. Being his old Gin self, stealing money, which is funny to hear. He stole the money off the dead body. Did not figure out that was happening, but I guess it did. Uh, Getting to see Kenichi again. Kenichi was cool. No, I mean, he's not cool, but he's like sort of like Usagi's yin to his yang, something type of thing. What Usagi could have been if something else happened to him. If he went down a different path. I like the distinction or the differences between Usagi and Kenichi. Like, I mean, you can tell the difference between them, but there's like subtle differences. Not just because Usagi is a white rabbit and Kenichi is a brown rabbit, but you can also see like Kenichi looks more disheveled, and the way Stan Sakai draws Kenichi's face, it very much looks like he has like a 5 o'clock shadow with a bunch of like scratching and cross hatching on his face, which I really like. Like he hasn't shaved or bathed in a couple days. You can definitely see that Kenichi has been defeated. And where will this go? Maybe Kenichi will get honor again and become honorable and not have like dishonorable like black cloud over his head. So it's cool to see them like working together or getting ready to work together. I just liked it. It was a fun, simple issue. It very much paralleled a little bit the last part of the first half of this issue. A little bit. Because it did follow up obviously with this part 5 and part 6. But yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. And obviously, shit's about to hit the fan when you get the two people who don't like each other working together and they're going to go wreck some shop. But I just want to say thank you for listening to all the people who have checked out the podcast. Hope you guys have enjoyed listening and hearing my thoughts on this series as I go through it for the very first time. And next week, we will be finishing up the samurai story with parts 7 and part 8. So that'll be fun. And I hope you guys enjoy that. We get to finish this first story arc. This first, I think, big story arc within Usagi Yojimbo. Because the other ones beforehand that I've looked up, which some of them are in this book, are like one shot stories, which will come before, which we'll cover those after we cover Samurai. I'm looking forward to see what happens because I am 100% invested in this, and I want to see what happens to Usagi. And well, obviously Usagi has to live, right? Because he's got like well over like 200 something issues. So we'll see. What happens to Kenichi? We don't know. But yeah, thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you want to check out my other podcast, it's called Otakuology. You can go check it out. We talk about anime, manga, movies, comic books. Not this comic book, but other comic books. Thanks for listening. Catch you guys on the next podcast episode. And let me know. Give me your thoughts. Let me know what you thought about this. Think about this podcast. Give me your feedback. You can find me at Usagi Podjimbo on Twitter and on Instagram. So yeah, check me out. Let me know what you think. Give me feedback. Feedback is always welcomed. And thanks for listening. Catch you guys on the next episode.